Hello, everyone. I'd like to welcome my listeners and viewers in the United States and all around the world. I am Vince Rocco, and it is Tuesday here in New York City, so let's go behind the headlines and get the real story. Today, we're going to talk about the current buyer's market in New York City and the insurance that both buyers and sellers need. But first, this is Talking New York Real Estate, the state of our industry. Up front today, in 2024, the New York City real estate market continues to show signs of shifting towards a buyer's market. Rising interest rates and economic uncertainty have cooled demand, leading to a stabilization in prices. Sellers, particularly in higher price segments, are increasingly willing to negotiate and offer concessions to close deals. Inventory levels are up, providing buyers with more options and leverage in negotiations. While competition remains fierce in some neighborhoods, particularly in more affordable areas, buyers generally have more time to make decisions and are in a stronger position to secure favorable terms compared to the frenzied conditions of prior years. But in my opinion, as I always say, buyers do not buy in this market. Also today, USI Insurance is recognized as a great insurance carrier due to its comprehensive range of products and personalized approach to coverage. Offering everything from property and casualty insurance to employee benefits and personal risk services, USI caters to a wide array of client needs. They combine a national reach with local knowledge, and I have one of their top stars at the table with us today. We will discuss that and so much more as Talking New York Real Estate gets underway on this very busy Tuesday morning. And in the news this morning, this year has been a challenging one for home buyers, but there are emerging signs that the worst is likely over, including here in New York City. With the Fed Reserve widely expected to cut interest rates in September, the average 30-year mortgage rate has been declining steadily. There were 2,700 new listings across New York City in July alone, an increase of 3.1% from a year ago. We anticipate, though, that buyers will see more opportunities through the rest of this year amid declining mortgage rates and many more new listings coming to market. And for the first time since 2019, new condo listings surpassed the number of new co-op listings in New York City, as the additional flexibility condos offer can help sellers attract more buyers in an already challenging market. And as the resale condo market heats up in Brooklyn, sellers are poised to take higher profits than last year compared to some of the other boroughs. Queens, though, has become a more competitive market for starter homes, with new contracts on the rise but declining new listings. And New Yorkers aren't just legally lighting up anymore. They are now allowed to get their hands dirty and grow their own marijuana at home. As of June 26, tenants and owners gain the right to cultivate cannabis at home thanks to state legislation that was passed in 2021 but just came into effect. Yes, that means you can grow marijuana in your New York City apartment as long as you don't live in public housing and other buildings that receive certain federal benefits. But before you decide to test your green thumb, there are things you should know about growing marijuana in or around your apartment. The ability to grow your own cannabis is not an authorization to hotbox your apartment. Before you light up, make sure to check your building's smoking policy to see if you're even permitted to smoke within your unit. And from the wine cellar to the terraces, roof deck, and outdoor kitchen, the West Village home of the actors Claire Danes and Hugh Dancy is a dreamy 4-story townhouse. But according to the New York Times, the celebrity pair is seeking even more space for their family. They put their 3,890 square foot home at 19 Downing Street on the market for $9.7 million recently to complement its timeless beauty. The prize-winning architecture firm of BKSK added modern luxury to the Greek Revival townhouse, and the 3 outdoor spaces making it an all-season natural for entertaining Hollywood royalty or just friends and family. And finally today, pay attention, Swifties. New York City's Department of Transportation is selling a limited number of authentic commemorative Cornelia Street signs as part of the agency's monthly sign drops. Taylor Swift once rented a home on the Greenwich Village Street and name-dropped the block in her 2019 song Cornelia Street. The handmade signs were made at the New York City Department of Transportation sign shop, and they make about 70,000 signs each year. And with me today at the table are Isaac Rosenberg from Compass, Daniel Blatman from Compass, Brad Ziegler from USI Insurance, and making her triumphant return to the show, Debra Hoffman from Brown Harris Stevens. Welcome, Deb, and we will be right back.
This beautiful set here at Studio 1873 is brought to you by the Everset. The Everset provides full-service staging and furniture rental solutions in the New York area. For more information, please visit us at staging.theeverset.com or email us at staging@theeverset.com to request a free proposal.
Okay, everybody, we are back. So today we're going to talk about the buyer's market. You know, it's so interesting. In 22 years that I'm in this business, we've gone from buyer's market, seller's markets, buyer's market, flat market, catastrophic markets, booming markets, bidding wars. I mean, every day you wake up, you have no clue where we are, where we're heading. You know, and I always say if I had a crystal ball, because people ask every day, where are we? What's happening? If I had a crystal ball, I wouldn't be doing this job, okay? I'd be sitting home smoking a cigar, which I don't like to do anyway. So we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about insurance and what buyers and sellers need when they set up homes. You know, it's shocking sometimes when I mention to a seller or I mention to a buyer that you need homeowners insurance or you need, you know, renter's insurance if you're renting, and they think, oh, well, why? Okay. First of all, buildings require it, okay? And we'll get into all of that with Brad in a few minutes. But let me start off with Daniel. So, you know, I don't know about all of you, but I'm so sick and tired of hearing or talking about what I call the elephant in the room, and that is interest rates. So we've been struggling with interest rates for, I don't know, a year and a half, almost 2 years now. The rates are high, although they have come down, and there is talk that, you know, in September they're going to come down even further. But how, in your opinion, has the, I guess, flat or, you know, steady interest rate at wherever it is, 6%, a little under 6%, how has that affected home buyers in the market? Let's just take it from 2024. Where are we with buyers and their mindset over the interest rate number, percentage?
My conversation with buyers, because I work with a lot of buyers, is overall very positive. What we saw in October of 2023 was emotional security. Because the interest rates for us, because in New York, we're kind of an anomaly in that people make money and rent is high. So is your monthly payment. It's kind of, you got to figure out how is it going to amortize and what's ultimately going to build you a better life. So in October of 2023, we had the crypto market, we had the stock market, we had the job market. All of them started to perform a little bit better. Interest rates came down a little bit, and then everybody celebrated. So it was really an emotional win, and we saw a bunch of buyers jump into the market in October. It slowed down again in November, so we saw that shift. Now, interest rates have come down a little bit, and I like to describe New Yorkers as we're always in fight or flight. And all we need is a little bit of emotional positivity to be able to start making big choices again. So what we're seeing is that job market is still strong, crypto market is still whatever it is. The stock market is still doing well. It went down, now it's recovered. And the interest rates, the hype about interest rates is that they're still high. However, when we're in jumbo loans, which most of the time in New York City we are, you end up around 5-6 to maybe 6%, and you have to be interested in exploring different terms like ARMs or maybe IO or 30-year fixed is not even that often used here because people refinance and they use their mortgage as leverage. Then if you're under $2 million, there's other banks that are getting you into the low 5s with a higher down payment. So it's really figuring out how can you position it. Buyers are feeling that emotional security of everything is fine, and they're jumping back into the market. Plus, we're seeing more and more people that are saying, we're going to be back in the office in September, we need a home. So it's really bringing buyers to the market, and they have to choose something because there's no rentals available, and rentals are super high, and they know they're wasting their money, and there's barely even any sales inventory available. Regardless of what people say, there might be things, but nobody wants to renovate. So there is leverage for well-positioned sellers.
All right. So basically, to cull from that, and I agree with you. You know, the monthlies are what is really stopping people, especially first-time buyers, or the higher monthlies than ever before. Mm-hmm. You know, because maybe they do want to renovate, maybe they want to do cosmetic work to, you know, paint or simple things, as I call it, but they don't want to spend the money because their monthly payments are now double or were double because of the interest rates. Deb, from your perspective, you know, in your book of business, are you feeling the same thing that Daniel just explained, or some buyers just saying, hey, you know what? It really still is about, because every once in a while I hear this, it really still is about the purchase price. I think it's still a little too high. Maybe, as every buyer's market says to us, maybe they're going to crash, maybe they're going to burn, maybe they're going to come down, because in the meantime, they're at home under the bed with the door locked, okay? So what are they waiting for? You know, in the past, it wasn't about interest rates, okay? It was about purchase price. What do you think about that?
You know, sort of piggybacking on what Daniel said, a lot of that is true, but in addition, a lot of the first-time home buyers are, let's just say, under 48 years old, and they have never seen interest rates above 4%. So that's why they keep thinking,
Hello,
it's
19%.
high. Yeah, me too, yep. But you see, they don't want to hear it from you and me.
No.
Because they don't want to hear it from their parents.
We're old.
Even the experts. And we are the experts. They don't want to hear that. This generation wants to hear what is relevant to them. So let's get back into what's relevant to them. They want a home they can move into. As you just said, they could be paying twice as much for what they are because of the higher interest rates. But around October, they did start to get comfortable because interest rates had been up for a while. And it's only so long you could have two parents and maybe two children in one bedroom, and they have to move on. But then they start hitting the roadblocks. It's not necessarily price in the larger apartments. It's what they will have to do to renovate in their minds. So we were talking right before we started that I had a number of apartments that were in triple mint condition for 1994. Now you're thinking, oh, that wasn't so long ago. Yeah, it was 30 years ago. Which, oh my God, it was 30 years ago. But they don't want to move into the home their parents renovated. They have to put their own thing in. So they're thinking, how much will this cost? How much? Everything's working. And I try to explain to them, you could do it piecemeal, okay? Do the bathrooms first. It's less expensive than the kitchen. The kitchen works. You have little kids, they'll destroy the kitchen. Let's move on. So it's not necessarily the price of the apartment. It's more what they're going to have to put into it with the higher interest rates.
You know, it's really interesting because, you know, you say 1994, I don't want to move into a home that my parents renovated. My parents renovated in the 70s, okay? I renovated in the 90s.
We did, that's right, but that's who, if I'm selling to someone
Yeah.
who's 42 years old.
No, I get it. Right.
I want to add in one quick thing to that. In 2019, we still had interest rates that approached 5%.
Yes.
We had to deal with that.
Yes.
They came up, then they settled back around 4.5. So if the person's in their 40s, we have seen that. We did go through it. What we really also have is during COVID, we had 4 years of people becoming desk jockeys. In cop movies, you used to make fun of the desk jockey because they were the person that was punished and then they had to sit at a desk. Now in real estate, the person is afraid to go through the motions and talk to a mortgage banker to figure out what are their actual interest rates. They're afraid to meet with a contractor and figure out what do they actually need to do. Talk to a contractor, talk to an interior designer, lean on your broker to figure out, is it actually going to cost you that much money? Or is it something you're afraid of because you sit at home looking at your two screens, staring at Pinterest and Restoration Hardware showrooms?
Listen, I've said it on this show many, many times, and you're all going to be sick and tired of hearing me, but, you know, in the late 90s, I got a 30-year fixed at 7%, and I thought I robbed the bank, okay? 7%. You tell that to a buyer today, I don't care what price point they're in or what age group they're in, you tell that to 7%. Oh, no, that's insane. Well, it was down from 19, it was down to 12, it was down to 11, you know, on and on and on, and it landed at 7, and I was excited. But you know, I always think it's a psychological thing with buyers. They're either ready to buy or they're not ready to buy, and until they're ready to buy, I don't care. You can light the seat on fire, ain't gonna happen.
That's the real story.
That's the
Are
real.
they actually ready? And it's that emotional exploration.
Correct.
Because that's a commitment, and can you do it?
Well, I wanted to ask about commitment later on, but let me go there right now. So, you know, look, in my opinion and in my life, I think most people are commitment adverse, whether it's in relationships, whether it's with friends or people, whether it's buying property or real estate. I think people have an issue with commitment, okay? So I believe that when somebody out there, a first-time buyer says, hey, listen, my mom, my dad, my brother, my friends, everybody is buying around me. I really think I need to do something here, but yet I don't really know how to do that. I don't really know if it's the right thing to do. Do I want to spend all of my saved, communion money or bar mitzvah money or whatever, because then I have no money left? So that's a major commitment, right? So how do you get them past that? And again, this is predominantly first-time buyers. Once you get past that first buy, I remember even when I bought my first home, I was like sweating. I was like, what am I doing? I'm spending all of my saved money for a down payment. But then by the time I got to the second and third and fourth, it's like, oh, who cares? Whatever. You know what you're going to yield on a resale, and you're going to get it all back.
If you wanted to say something, but
I think it's understanding really what are you buying for, and people want certainty.
That's
Over
right.
the last 4 years, they've had massive rent increases and had to move. That is so disruptive to our everyday life. It is the most anxiety-producing. Like somebody that's 25 is going to get shingles because they had to move and adjust their life
Shingles.
and try and figure out something. So when you figure out what is your real purpose to buy, and it is because you can make it your own, you can't do that with a rental. You can actually sleep because if you want soundproof windows, you can make that happen if you live on an avenue. You can also know you will not have to leave that home until you decide to. You now have control. And what we're seeing now in this cycle of life, where people have traveled, they've worked from anywhere, they've bounced here, they've bounced there, they've gotten divorced, they've gotten remarried, they've gotten divorced again. We're seeing all of that happen. That cycle shifted over the last 4 years, and right now, people are back in New York. They've learned that Miami sucks, and they want a real home. So we're seeing people actually commit. We're seeing people need to be grounded. We're seeing people get into relationships instead of floating. And through that, it's also bringing more buyers to the market.
Then what's my problem?
Well,
Relationships.
We'll diagnose that later.
I'm only kidding. No, but you're right. It's that commitment thing, and that you get to a point where you say, okay, I got to do it. Like my dad used to say, you have to own a piece of the rock. And in the beginning, I'd be like, well, what the hell is he talking about? What do you mean by that? Right? Right. You got to own something to feel like you're contributing to life in general. And look, it doesn't work out, or if you want to sell it, whatever, sell it. Get rid of it and get out of it. Yeah. Yeah. Isaac, let me ask you. So you get involved in lots of neighborhoods, okay? Brooklyn, Manhattan. In your opinion, is it a pricing thing with buyers that we talked about before, or is it really the interest rate, or is it just a commitment kind of thing with the people you talk to every day? And you do a lot of business, so you're out there chatting with people, but whether they're sellers or buyers, what is on their mind today?
Commitment.
Okay.
It's
in a word.
But how is their TJ set?
No idea what you're saying. So I find in a first phone call with a buyer, you know if they're ready or not. They're either going to get on a call with a mortgage broker, they're going to get pre-approved, they're going to send you proof of funds, they're going to show you that they're ready to go, or not. The ones that are not, they're going to spend the next 3 to 6 to 12 months telling you about how high the interest rates are, how overpriced everything is, and they're not going to make a move. Versus the people who are ready, they're going to go out there, they're going to get pre-approved, they're going to figure out what makes the most sense for them in the current market, and they're going to transact.
What is your conversation with buyers? I'm going to ask these guys also, but what is your conversation with buyers when they do push back, first and foremost, on interest rate? What do you tell them? What I tell them often is, that's today, and I've certainly been in markets, as I've just mentioned before, where they've been much higher, but guess what? The good news is they do come down, or when they do come down, you can refinance. Sometimes that sticks, and sometimes it doesn't. What's the conversation you have with buyers? Is it the same?
It's definitely the same. It's the way I see it is, if this is the new world, the interest rates that we currently have is what it is, then this is what you're buying it at. And if it's not, if it comes down, you refinance. Either way, if you need a place to live, you're going to transact.
Correct. Deb, what neighborhoods right now are seeing the most price reductions? If there are some, because there are some reductions, not, nothing ever plummets in this town, but where are we seeing, because prices, reduce a little bit, sellers get a little nervous, especially those who have to sell and want to sell and have to move on or whatever. Are you seeing any particular neighborhoods where prices are coming down more than other neighborhoods or not?
Not necessarily. It's more what the person's lifestyle is, what they have to do. If they really have to move, if they have a contract out someplace else, they'll reduce the price. But many sellers are saying, just let somebody make an offer. I don't want it to show up online that it's this little. And that's what's so difficult. But what I'm also thinking about is a different kind of buyer, because I work mostly with sellers. Sellers are also buyers because they have to own a piece of the rock. As you say, they really want to own.
Or upgrade or downgrade or whatever.
Exactly. So the difficulty with them is, well, I've got a 2.5 30-year fixed right now. Why should I get a 6.1 or whatever? I have that same conversation you have.
And for extra room, you're going to sleep in the closet. Okay.
You know what?
I mean,
they
I hear
don't
that
think
too.
that because most of them are not in any hurry. And this comes back to the very first thing you said in the beginning of the inventory problems. Yes, we're having an inventory problem because, there's a lot out there, but not necessarily anything you want to move right into.
All right, we have to take a break, quick break. No one's going anywhere. We will come right back after the break. This is Talking New York Real Estate on the More Network. Don't go anywhere.
What do you really need to know about buying or selling a home? First, it's serious business, and it's complicated. There's a lot of money on the table, and emotion too. You need an agent who knows the ropes. So, whether you're buying or selling your home, work with professionals who have a mastery of the craft.
All right, we're back, everybody. I wanted to ask Daniel about inventory. We hear such mixed, things about inventory is decreasing, inventory is increasing. Maybe in September, if rates go down, we'll get a lot more on the market. I firmly believe that we don't have a lot of inventory because sellers are holding back because they know that it's taking a while. I have a listing that's been out now for over 2 months in a building that it should have sold in 4 weeks, which is always the history in this building, but it's on over 2 months. I asked the seller if they wanted to reduce the price. They said, no, we're not in a hurry. We have a great tenant. Let's just wait until we get our offer. So where are we with inventory? Is it up? Is it down? Is it going to increase in September or possibly October? No matter who you ask, we get a different opinion.
Inventory is definitely going to increase. And the question is how much? So what we've seen is we have just a strong emotional commitment to buying right now, and people are ready to move. You've held off for the last 2 years, and you held off last year thinking that something was going to happen because that's really when it started. Now, people can't really hold off anymore. Your kid has outgrown the closet that they're living in. So when they need to make that commitment, everybody is prepping to have something come up in September. So I would expect we're going to see a flurry of activity in September. We're going to see the new listings that came to market that didn't exist before, because what we've seen for the last few years is that the new inventory that came up in September was actually the expired inventory from 3 or 4 months ago, just repriced. So the market was actually...
That's a very good point. That's a very good point.
So we are seeing a lot of that. It's a bunch of expired listings that are going to come up. There's going to be some new inventory, but it's the same 1 bedroom that is trying to sell 4 floors above it, or the same 3 bedroom. So the real concept is buyers are going to have to jump in and understand underwriting a property for the value that it is and making an offer based off of the value it should be priced at. A listing price is only for positioning in today's market. It is positioning and a marketing strategy. It does not show worth. And you need to be able to jump in. It's more, buyers like, I don't know if the seller's serious. Well, I don't know if you're serious as the buyer. Like I'm doing one right now. It's asking $6 million. Never had a price drop. It's been on the market for 300 days. Guess what it's selling for? 5. So and I can't justify 6. I've underwritten. I can maybe give them 5.2 if the buyer loves it. You got that emotional barrier there. So we will see inventory come up, but it's really making sure that is that new inventory priced right? And are the buyers ready to commit, or are they going to say it's just more of the same? because they're not ready.
See, yes, for sure. Yeah. But one of the things that I think we struggle with is when you're having these pricing conversations with sellers, okay, and you know what the price should be based on the comps in the building, based on, apartments in the same line that have sold or are currently on the market, and the seller says, no, I want this, I want this, I want this. But how does that, and I know what's on a seller's mind. They're always thinking, all right, we are in a buyer's market, but at some point we're going to flip, and it usually happens in a minute. We'll flip to a seller's market, and all of a sudden, if I lower my price, now I just took money out of my own pocket. So I believe that they struggle with, why should I do that based on what Vince is telling me the market today can bear, when maybe if I hold on a little bit longer, I'll get another $100,000 or whatever that number is, 50.
It's really a financial conversation. And whether it's a buyer's market or a seller's market, we've had a neutral market since 2018. And
Correct.
Depends on the type of property. You'll see a headline, oh, it's a buyer's market. That doesn't matter because it depends on what stats are they looking at. Just because you see a price drop doesn't mean it's still priced right. You might see something priced at 5 that then trades at 3.3.
Oh, absolutely.
It's really what is the actual value of it. Now, the conversation with the seller is, what kind of market do you actually want to create? For an individual, do you want to make your apartment a buyer's market or a seller's market? So how do you want to price it? Here are all of the things that I will do for you. This is how we're going to market it. These are the activities that we're going to do. This is how we're going to spend money on putting ads out there. This is where we're going to place it, and this is how we're going to drive traffic. If this doesn't work, and I'm happy to try different pricing, however, the market will dictate the price. With these activities, could you believe that the market would then dictate the price, or could you think that it's the buyer or that it's the agent's issue? Because usually the agent gets blamed first. And if these do not work and nobody's coming to your price, that would probably mean that it's market. Would you agree? Now, if that is market, how would it be better to position it to better take control of the way that a buyer perceives it? Then if it comes into that, I might get $100,000 more, you look at the time value of money. If you really want to wait that long, everybody talks about having dry powder right now. Look at Berkshire Hathaway. Everybody is selling to have cash. So do you want to put that money into something that is a growing asset, or are you willing to hold on for a potential $100,000, potential $100,000?
Well, it's always the
that you might lose that based off of a flood in your bathroom, your AC unit. I had to go check in a client's apartment at 11 o'clock on a Sunday night because there was a flood in the apartment below them. I got a video of everything to show the air conditioning, to show the bathroom, to show the fire staircase, to make sure that people knew what was not a flood and that it was not coming from this apartment. Turns out it was coming from that guy's air conditioning and his own ceiling, and he wasn't willing to open it up and blame my client for 2 weeks. So it really, if that person was holding off selling, he's going to lose a lot more money there, unless Brad tells us otherwise, than having sold it for a number and moving on to then take advantage of another seller down the road.
Isaac, let me ask you. So, in your book of business, in where you play every day, let's take Brooklyn and Manhattan. Where are you seeing more activity happening in the market? Is it more buyer activity in Brooklyn, or more buyer activity in Manhattan, or seller here and seller there? What are you seeing from the two borough perspective? I mean, I predominantly work in Manhattan, so I don't have, that much knowledge about activity in other boroughs.
So I see very neighborhood specific. People are looking in neighborhoods like Park Slope in Brooklyn more than almost any neighborhood in Brooklyn, I would say. And then, based on price points, everybody wants to be in the primary, West Village and all of those neighborhoods. But if they
can afford it, West Village
can
is
afford
very
it,
expensive.
and if they can't,
Right.
they're gonna, go further out.
Deb, in your opinion, are co-ops selling faster than condos these days, or condos selling faster than co-ops? What about townhouses? What the buyers who are buying today, and again, regardless of the price point, what are they buying? What is the product that they are buying more of than not?
I'm actually seeing 50-50.
Oh.
And you talk about the West Village. I just sold 2 apartments in the West Village. One was my listing, one was not. One was a condo, one was a co-op. And they were not overpriced. They were also both one bedrooms. But the apartments are available if people are willing to look and make little compromises.
When you say compromises in what?
In renovations.
Okay.
Because
yeah.
that's what we've been talking
Yeah.
about. It's, if you want the neighborhood, if you want the West Village, well, I'm not going to go to Park Slope. I really want the West Village. Well, do you want to take a look at this product?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to? And it might be a co-op. It may not be a condo that you really
Well,
want.
oftentimes when you're buying in the West Village, and correct me if I'm wrong, Isaac, but you're buying a smaller apartment for about the same price. The housing inventory in the Village is not as big as in other neighborhoods. My favorite neighborhood of all of New York City is the West Village. But when you look at property, it's a lot smaller sometimes than others.
Or you're trading a condo for a co-op.
Yeah.
Yes.
and
Or you're trading a condo
Yes.
for a co-op. Yeah.
You give up a lot to stay a child and live in the West Village. At one point, you have to grow up and make a mature decision.
But they make the best cocktails in the West Village. I'm sorry, but they do.
Absolutely do.
Yeah. Well, no,
But
I'll take somebody else's. any day.
If you cannot stay out until 4 a.m. drinking anymore and wake up
Well,
not
I can't.
hungover,
I can't. No.
you don't need to live there. There are so many other neighborhoods to explore. We just are afraid of what we don't
Plug
know.
for West Village.
It's like
No,
the
you're
Upper
right.
East Side
I
is
get you. I
different
get you.
right now. The
Listen.
Murray Hill, different right now.
And all the years I'm living in Manhattan, 30 years and 22 in the real estate business, I've seen every neighborhood change. The Upper East Side was dead for years and years and years, and all of a sudden it came alive with the Second Avenue subway. Yeah. Downtown has always been pretty popular. Brooklyn exploded out of nowhere before the pandemic, and then certainly during the pandemic. It's amazing. The Upper West Side, it was the hottest market, for a long time, and all of a sudden I'm seeing a little bit of things change up there, and I've lived up there for 22 years. So it's a long time, but neighborhoods change on a regular basis. People have to know where they want to be. They are specific where they want to be for work purposes, school purposes, mostly schools, and that's where they direct their buying. Brad, let me ask you. So we're going to talk about insurance a little bit. Brad is an insurance specialist at USI, but I want to know though, what inspired you to specialize in insuring townhouses and apartments in New York City? I mean, versus anything else that you could have gotten involved in from an insurance perspective.
Sure. So I can tell you, Vince, that I did not grow up wanting to go into insurance. That was not the goal.
Me
but
either.
I have to say,
I fell into real estate.
Cattle insurance is huge.
Yes, exactly.
There you go.
So I have to
Oklahoma
say that
Ranch.
thankfully, I love what I do. So I've learned over, I guess, the past 10 years. But I was brought on at my firm to work with our commercial and employee benefits team. So we're a 10,000 person company. We have enough people that we can get the commercial team to have an account. They send us their CEO, CFO to do the personal lines, and usually they have 10 homes, 20 cars, that type of thing. But I was given a list of 4 people to work with, and 2 of those people were already being worked on by my colleagues. I'm like, these 2 people are not going to get me to make any sort of money. So why don't I do something I like? And that's, I would always be on Street Easy looking at $20 million properties.
Who doesn't?
Why
Everybody
not
does.
live vicariously through you guys, real estate brokers,
Exactly.
and focus on just connecting with centers of influence like yourself?
Okay, just because you said it, I'm going to ask you. You didn't grow up wanting to be an insurance person. What did you want to do?
I think in preschool, and this is somewhat of a joke,
Now we're going way back.
I said I wanted to be a bus driver. So I had very,
Okay.
happiest person in
aspirational,
grade
yeah,
school.
exactly.
I went to Catholic elementary school, so of course I wanted to be a priest. Really?
Wow, good call.
Good. A bus driver. Listen.
They're very unique,
As they say, there is something for everybody, right? All right. So you've been in the market now on the residential side for a while. How have you seen, townhouses and apartments evolve through the years, and the requirements for insurance change?
Am I allowed to curse?
Yes, you are.
So insurance has become a shit show in the past 2 or 3 years.
Correct. Tell us why.
It's a perfect storm. So Hurricane Ian in 2022, even though that only had to do with Florida, really made the insurance companies' reinsurance go
It
up
did.
100+%. So that did not help. Then there's more losses happening. I think last year there was $18 billion losses across the country. Now it's 28 in 2023. So it's 2022, 2023 had 28. So we're seeing more losses. And then on top of it, especially in Manhattan and Brooklyn, materials with inflation and labor is just going up so much. So these insurance companies are losing money or just not profitable. So we're seeing the rates going up a ton. This year's much better. Fingers crossed that no hurricanes hit Florida or the East Coast, because that will change things. But last year, my daily conversation was, why is my rate going up 35%? At that point, it's just like, do you want to downgrade to a cheaper insurance company that won't do the job that this company will do? Or do you want to stick with it or raise your deductible, which is really the main thing?
Well, just like I said to the real estate agents here, you're the expert. If they listen to what you tell them or how you direct them, and what they should or shouldn't do, they stay the course. Hey, look, my insurance goes up all the time, every year. I don't like it. I mean, my health insurance from 23 to 24, jumped crazy. What am I going to do? Not have health insurance,
Exactly.
right? So you have to kind of pay the price to do that. But when it comes to townhouses, for example, versus a co-op or a condo, obviously you're insuring a home versus, a share in a cooperative building or a condo in a building. What is the difference when you're looking at a townhouse? What do you have to take into consideration when you go to underwriting? What do they want to know about a townhouse versus a co-op or a condo, which I would assume is easier?
Definitely easier, because condo co-op just walls in, and it's much cheaper too for the client. And when someone's buying a brownstone, let's say it's like $10 million, West Village, I'm working on one right now on Jane Street, they are very focused on getting that same sort of rebuild coverage. And if you're with the companies you've heard of on TV,
Correct.
those are the ones that generalize. They're going for that $1 million and below type purchase. They're not going to rebuild the same type of material. Some have something called functional replacement cost, which means they will rebuild with 2024 material, not the 1899 Jane Street brownstone. So that would mean you get a frame house. You would not get anything brownstone. You would not get the same. You would not get plaster. You'd get drywall. So that's where companies like Chubb, Pure, Cincinnati, and AIG, the higher end companies, and thankfully as a broker we have access to all of them, would, if God forbid there was that total loss, they're rebuilding with that exact same type of material.
So I just wanted to go back to when you say frame house. So a brownstone gets damaged, demolished, whatever. It gets built back up, not like it was.
Correct.
As a frame house. Interesting.
And the pricing is, though, drastically different. To put in perspective, like Chubb would think this $10 million place is probably $14 million to rebuild, because they're going to go all out getting the best.
How do the homeowners make that decision? Because obviously, as you say, the price is very, very different. If I'm living in a brownstone, and a classic brownstone on Jane Street or anywhere in New York City, I would probably want to put it back to the original look and feel, right?
Correct.
I wouldn't want a frame house. Yeah. How do they make that determination?
So there's a lot of misinformation.
I would say if you can own a townhouse, you could pay the insurance, right? But, maybe not.
Most people don't know any better. They will usually just go off of, I have a guy that I tried to insure. He had a $25 million place in the Hamptons and had an online company that was giving him close to $1 million.
Oh, there's always that online something.
Yeah.
So
I hear that lemonade stands are actually the new entrepreneurial thing for adults. It's wild.
It's wild.
I just saw that yesterday.
Yes, it is. I love you, Daniel. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's just the pricing is drastically different. To put in perspective, Chubb would be $50,000 versus maybe the ones that would be the ones you see on TV would probably be half of that. But would you like that frame house over that brownstone that you actually purchase? And I try to be as open as possible with my clients. There is X option out there, but this is what you're going to get with it. And if you're paying $10 million in cash, like this guy on Jane Street, what is $25,000, $50,000 at the end of the day for a year anyway?
So what advice do you give clients other than what you just said to help them, prevent or minimize any loss? Because when I have conversations with new home buyers, and I say, listen, you need homeowners insurance, and here's what you need it for, but I'm not the expert, so talk to Brad or whatever. What do they ask you about why? Well, I live in, people say, but I live in a building. Isn't the building covered? Well, no, not for the contents of your unit per se, or as you said before, wall in. Explain to us what that is.
So I'd say the new guess, discounts that are available, and especially I guess there's two things that water, I guess, is the main loss driver, 9 times more likely than anything else in New York City. And if
Water.
you like the example you were
What a
giving
word.
with the air conditioner, like it doesn't just stay in one unit; it goes to many, other units. So, like I had one of a
And you get mold potentially.
get mold.
Oh,
I had someone who was with a company that we've all heard of. She was not my client at the time. She was away in Connecticut. Her sprinklers malfunctioned, and it seeped to 18 units. And it wasn't her fault. She wasn't
Oh
there.
Lord.
And 18 of those units all sued her. The carrier pushed back, saying it was the building's responsibility. The building pushed back, saying this is not like on us. We're going to try to do as much as we can to not pay. And she learned a valuable lesson. And on top of that, they tried to put her in the Hampton Inn. This is a $3.5 million place. They tried to put her in the Hampton Inn. So to answer your question, though, water sensors are
I used to stay in the Hampton Inn in Minnesota. It was not too bad.
Nothing wrong with the Hampton
But
Inn.
in New York, I probably wouldn't
Yes.
want to do that.
If-
No.
if-
When the other bed is Denny's, you choose the Hampton.
You got that right.
I've always liked the Hampton Inn, but water sensors are becoming a requirement now on certain properties, and it is. I'm on the fence with the water sensors because they won't notify anyone but the actual client, and let's say they're away in China or wherever. Like, what is that water sensor going to do if you're sleeping?
What is it going to do?
Um,
Right. Well,
but
there you go.
On townhouses, it's much easier to have. So they have, they're usually required to have the automatic central station, burglar and fire alarm. So that's any home with a rebuild value over $2 million. Usually there's that requirement, and it's good to have. It's not like Ring, which will notify you locally, just like the sensors would. This would, just like ADT, it would notify someone. And then I think the biggest change, and clients aren't really aware of this yet, but we're seeing this a lot with insurance brokers, it's becoming the norm, is an automatic water shutoff device. So on homes over $5 million, they're now requiring a shutoff device to be installed on the main valve. So and this usually costs anywhere from like $2,000 to $5,000 with installation, but this usually it pays for itself within 3 years. And now that it's a requirement, it's just water is the bane to insurance companies' existences in New York, and they're doing everything to make sure they can minimize that loss.
All right, we've got to take a quick break. When we come back, I'm going to ask Brad to simplify what is needed for a buyer and or a seller in homeowners insurance. And then we have more to talk about with the agents. Coming right back. Don't go anywhere. This is Talking New York Real Estate. We'll be right back. Okay, everybody, we are back, and we're talking to Brad Ziegler from USI Insurance. Call him for all of your insurance needs for yourself, for your customers, or email him. He's always available, and he does a great job. But I wanted to ask you, what is the type of insurance that is needed for a brand new homeowner, buyer buying an apartment or co-op or a condo or a townhouse? What do they need to make sure they get covered, and about, approximately what does it cost them?
Sure. So definitely, I think the main driver is if it's going to be a condo co-op or a townhouse, because that condo co-op can really range from $700 to $20,000 plus, but brownstone is going to be probably $6,000 to like an infinite number, depending on how
Annually?
expensive. Yes, how expensive.
That's not that bad, actually.
And like one I did last year, $15 million brownstone Upper East Side, that was like $56,000 and insured for $24 million. So it's the price really ranges, but as a broker, we work with 30 different companies. So there's agents and then there's brokers in my business. And agents are the ones you see on TV. They appeal to the masses. Brokers are the ones that were the intermediary. No one really has heard of USI unless you're like an attorney or you have a large commercial company. But as brokers, we have access to so many different companies, and they all have different target markets. So Chubb is the gold standard. They're on the higher end cost-wise, but if you have any sort of loss, they will roll out the red carpet. Then there's the less expensive ones, like we have, like I always call it the mid-tier, like Travelers and Progressive. You're not going to get the red carpet, but you're going to have a good experience, and their pricing is less. So I always try to set that expectation by showing a more mid-tier option than sometimes like semi-premier, and then the Chubb option if they're looking for the best. A lot of the times I'll have someone that's like, get me the cheapest policy possible, and I know I'm not going to be showing them Chubb. sometimes I'm surprised because they think the pricing is going to be ridiculously expensive, but then I'll have someone like an email yesterday. I sent them a quote for $700, and they're like, well, I have another quote for $680. I'm like, good luck with that $680 quote.
Okay, for $200 you can buy me dinner. Okay,
$20. $20.
$20. $20. Excuse me.
Listen, you get like a Chipotle without a drink.
That's a problem.
But people do this with apartments too. You're fighting over $500.
$10,000 loses deals. $5,000 loses deals. Deb, let me ask you, how do the current market conditions, and like I keep saying, we're in a buyer's market, whatever that means, how does it compare to past buyer's markets? I mean, other than the interest rate dilemma right now, what else is significant about this particular buyer's market than buyer's markets in the past?
We were talking about this before, but I have never seen anything like this in 28 years. A lot of it has to do about what Daniel said about the pandemic. A lot of it's psychological. People have been sitting at home. They've been in their own heads. Yes, they want to buy, but because they're in their own heads, they think it's a market where they could get just about anything, or they could negotiate down to anything. But it may not be that. It's very wonky. I mean, I don't even know how to answer that. It's so different. Buyers are wanting things that don't exist, or they say, we'll wait until the market turns around, maybe in 5 more years, but maybe everyone is uncertain. There's uncertainty. And don't blame the election, because I've been through so many election cycles. People move when they have to move.
No, it's not the election.
You know, 'cause that's what everyone says.
I totally agree.
So,
well, yeah, but you know what? I don't think it's that.
Yeah, no, I don't either.
What my assumption is...
It's a good excuse, but it really isn't.
Yeah.
We know what we had and we know what we have.
Right.
So what do you expect to change? It's the same suspects.
Right.
Actually, suspects has a different word here. But when it comes to this, I don't think that sellers realize how much that they actually do need to sell. And what makes this buyer's market different is that in previous buyer's markets, the sellers had to sell. They lost their jobs. There was something going on where they actually had to move. In this buyer's market, sellers think that they have golden handcuffs and that they don't need to sell until all of a sudden they're like, why don't we have offers? I need to sell right now. It's like, what about all of the 12 offers that I've brought you that you turned down, that you didn't want to negotiate, that were still close enough to your asking price that would have involved a conversation? So in this market, they don't know that they need to sell until it's too late. So they should always engage in a conversation and then figure out the value proposition. And just like Monty Python, it's, do they weigh more than a duck? It is a strong question.
Well, and as I've said for years and years and years, your first offer generally is the best offer, and you should take it hands down, unless, of course, it's hundreds of thousands of dollars, lowball and whatever. Isaac, you know, the rental market has zoomed over the past couple of years. I mean, pricing, average price of 1 bedrooms, average price of 2 bedrooms in this town, historically high, outrageously high. What is the market doing right now from a rental perspective in all boroughs? I mean, Manhattan is still higher than Brooklyn and Queens, but Queens is, I think I said at the top of the show, suffering from a lack of inventory. They're selling and renting robustly, but there's not enough inventory. What's going on in Brooklyn and Manhattan, rental-wise?
Brooklyn and Manhattan continue to be super strong because there is no inventory to buy, or people can't afford to buy, and they're super well qualified to rent, and they pay top dollar.
But why are they, here's my dilemma. Why are they super qualified to rent? Because they make big income? One would say, why can't they use that big income to pay a mortgage? And you know, the maintenance and the whatever that goes on in the building. Is it because they don't have enough down payment money? Or because the monthly payment, because of interest rate, is just a tad too high?
Combination. Many of them were preparing to buy, and then, you know, they weren't expecting costs to be where they are now. And many of them make really good money, dual income or whatever, and they just simply can't afford to purchase, but, you know, $200,000, $400,000 incomes can rent the great apartments.
But don't people sit back, and guys chime in too, but don't people sit back and say, you know, I'm paying $4,500, $5,000 for an apartment. I could be putting that money to, I mean, I saw a 2-bedroom rental recently. I mean, not in a fantastic building, but $9,800 a month for a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom. And I'm like, okay. Isn't there a problem with that?
You know, I've been asking this for a very long time, and I have much older children who are in their 40s, and I work with a lot of their friends, and they're all renting. Some of them have $500,000 incomes or something, and I've said to them, you should be buying. Why are you renting? Or one family is even, the family's in real estate, and they own numerous buildings. And I say, you really should be buying. Why are you still renting? And the answer I'm getting is, well, after COVID, we don't know where we're going to be in a few years. We don't know what the market's going to be, which is a funny answer, but so many of these people are renting.
But isn't that a cop-out?
Yeah, but that's what they say.
I mean, I don't know where I'm going to be in a couple of years. Well, nobody knows where they're going to be in a couple of years.
I know,
So,
and that's what I say. Yeah.
You own something, you sell it. Daniel, how do we get back to a seller's market? And what is the timeline for us to do that? We all understand the difference between seller market and buyer market. We're in this, declared buyer's market. I don't know what market we're in, but I'm going to go with that. How do we get back to a seller's market?
In a seller's market could be as simple as the listing agents actually having some balls and pricing things accurately the first time, and then creating the urgency that buyers need to commit because the buyers are there. If a seller's agent or if a seller starts listening to their agent and they interview multiple agents to figure out what do they actually need to do to the apartment to sell. Know that 1991 renovation that is triple mint, that looks like Jurassic Park, does not work in today's market. But if you are willing to paint the cabinets, just literally paint them, that is now triple mint for today's market because the buyers they're not that educated. They purely look at surface, look at TikTok. So
Right.
if you can make something beautiful in the way that buyers look at it right now and actually listen to your agent, make sure that you trust your agent. Don't hire them if you don't trust them. Trust your agent, make sure that they're qualified, and then price it right because that will create a seller's market. And that's all that needs to happen. Done.
Timeline. When is that happening?
You want to do it in September?
Yes.
Call me.
Okay. It floors me to think, and take it from where it's coming from, okay, that people buy and rent apartments off of TikTok. I cannot fathom any of that. But
People get their news off of TikTok. There are more people that will watch news shows on that than CNN.
Oh, I can't.
Yes.
I can't.
I don't blame
I just
you,
can't.
but that's-
All right. Last question is economic. From an economic perspective, I heard again last night. I've been hearing about this for most of this year. We are leading the world in our economy. The economy has significantly, I can't talk today, grown over the past couple of years to a point where it's in very good condition. Yeah, people yap about kitchen table issues and about this and about that, the cost of bananas. Buy less bananas, for heaven's sakes. Who cares? The economy is doing well. Why isn't that translating to buying real estate? I don't get it.
What you just said.
I'm going to
No.
go with it. It's purely people are afraid. When we look at New York City, they're not. We are Peter Pan, male
But
or
they're
female.
focusing on the wrong thing. You keep hearing about inflation. Inflation is under 3%. It's really not even a problem anymore. It's the kitchen table issues. It's not even the economy. So what are they focusing on? I'm not quite sure I get it.
They want to have their cake and eat it too, and they want to add sprinkles, and everybody is super spoiled right now, as you just said. And the challenge with New York is that if you move 5 minutes away, it changes your entire life routine. It changes you from an express
100%.
stop to a local stop.
Yep.
It changes your gym. It changes whether your friends will even come to visit you or not. I mean, it can change everything. But sometimes you need that change. And they're not willing to face that because it's easier in New York City to run from our problems than to face them and make choices that are actually good for us. So when you start to really figure out what do you need out of life and what area will benefit your life, and your friend's opinion doesn't matter because if they have not lived there in the last 6 to 12 months, they're invalid. Just because you saw it while you were driving in a car doesn't mean you actually explored that neighborhood. You need to explore the neighborhood on how will it benefit your life now and what you're growing into versus remaining the creature that you have been. So when we do that, we'll see more people buying. And when the agents can educate their buyers, when the agents can educate their sellers and actually build that level of trust and get a little like, listen, we've explored all of this. We've seen what you want to see. Now let's go see what I think will be beneficial to you based off of the given circumstances that you've told me.
Correct.
Then we'll see more of that translate to real estate.
Isaac, are Gen Zers catching up to millennials in the pursuit of real estate, whether it's rentals, in the big city or sales, or are they still kind of lagging behind because of their age?
Great question.
Yeah.
I don't know any Gen Zs buying real estate personally. I'm sure some of them are, the TikTok stars, but other than that, I don't know.
Daniel?
Gen Z is looking different. I moved into New York in 08, and the people that moved to New York City 08 through maybe 2010 all wanted to live in Manhattan. Mm-hmm. We moved out to Bed-Stuy. We moved into different areas. And we're like, we're going to move into Manhattan. Now nobody cares. So the people that are moving now want to live in Brooklyn. Eventually, when there's a TV show about Queens, they'll want to live in Queens. Not the King of Queens. That doesn't count as a show. But Astoria right now is like Fort Greene was, because everybody complains the trains don't work. Nobody cares about us. Well, that was the G train. Now Fort Greene's prices have tripled since nobody cared. So if you pay attention to these things, people are staying in their neighborhoods. They're working from home, and they don't need to come into the city anymore. So when you meet Gen Z where they are, and you go to the neighborhoods where they can afford, and you learn it, and you can pitch them on multifamily. There's government programs. They're excited about it. They are educate them because they're curious and they'll ask questions, and they will absolutely buy. And then they can also even raise money from their parents because their parents want them to be savvy. They want them to be educated. And if they come with the right presentation on why it makes sense financially, they will do it. So Gen Zs are phenomenal buyers right now.
Barbara Streisand used to sing a song, People Will Be People. I don't remember the name of the song, but people will be people. And trust me, very emotional, very complex, very stubborn, I have my own opinions on whatever. But look, people are people, and it is our job as their advisor to get them over the hump of, I can't do it, I don't want to do it, I don't understand how to do it, I'm too scared, I'm too nervous. We are successful in that. Brad and Isaac and Debra and Daniel, I didn't sleep last night. Thank you for being at the table with me this morning. We're going to come right back after these messages with my thoughts of the week. Don't go anywhere. Okay, everybody, we are back with my thoughts for the week. In New York City real estate, the dynamics of a buyer's market and a seller's market are quite distinct. In buyer's markets, there is more available inventory than demand, giving buyers the advantage. Prices tend to stabilize or decrease, and sellers are often more willing to negotiate on price and offer concessions to close deals. Buyers have more time and options, allowing them to be more selective. Conversely, in a seller's market, demand outpaces supply, driving up prices and leading to competitive bidding. When sellers are in control, they often receive multiple offers and sell properties quickly with little need for price reductions or incentives. While buyers must act fast and may need to make compromises, sellers can command higher prices and dictate terms. The balance of power in each market type significantly impacts negotiation strategies and pricing and the speed of all of the transactions. Navigating New York City real estate is like trying to predict the weather. 1 minute it's raining deals, and the next you're in a bidding war hurricane without an umbrella, and you think I look like this on purpose? Believe me. And that's our broadcast for today. Thanks to my guests for being here on set with me. You can follow me on Facebook, on Threads, Instagram, LinkedIn, or TikTok at Vince Rocco, or my website, thinkvince.com. John Wooden says, if you don't have time to do it right, when will you have time to do it over? And a programming note to everybody, we will be off for the next 2 weeks on vacation, and we will be returning on September 10th for an all new season 10. And season 10, really? And from all of us here at Talking New York Real Estate and the More Network, to all of you all around the world, thanks for spending a part of your day with us. I am grateful, and I will see you next time. Bye, everybody.